game.
Hills the throw. Blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw. Dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch. Got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIS.
All right, game day eve. Home game day eve is back. It's been a while, but Nebraska playing at Memorial Stadium tomorrow in chilly fall conditions. Maybe a little hot cider at the tailgate with a mix in or not, depending on your preference, because we are going to be, tailgating temps tomorrow will be in the high 40s, kickoff 51 and a little breezy. We may even have a wind chill at kickoff. Not real heavy winds. We're not talking about Michigan State winds, but 10 mile an hour winds, gusts maybe up to 20 throughout the course of the game. A little chilly. I'm going to the game tomorrow. I don't even know where my seats are, so hopefully it's somewhere on the south side of the stadium, I guess it would be on the north side of the stadium, because it looks like that wind. Well, it looks like the wind actually is kind of coming. Whatever. I don't know how to read this. In any case, it's my first time talking about weather. East southeast winds. Well, yeah, it is south winds. I figured it'd be north winds given the temperatures down there, but what do I know? Glad to have you with us. Welcome to the Friday Husker Tailgate. I'm Jack Mitchell with Nate Rohr, John Bishop as well. Kevin Suits will join us in a bit. If you want to listen to us, well, you're already doing that. If you want to, got a few people who are already on the stream watching us, but you can join them on the Facebook page or Twitter page for KLIN or LNK Today with Jack and Friends, or you can use my Twitter or Facebook pages as well. We got a broadcasting on all of those if you want to watch us and look at the high quality production that Kenny puts out with this every week. So go ahead and join us there if you would like to do that and get in on the comments as well. Well, guys, here we are after a loss that I think surprised all of us based into the predictions. I think Kevin was the only one last week in the predictions that kind of rang the alarm bells, even though he picked Nebraska, but he did say explicitly, I'm concerned about this one. I said just the opposite. I said this is the one where Nebraska finally puts it to a team they should put it to, and just the opposite happened. And we'll talk plenty about that. But I wanted to start with this discussion today, kind of looking ahead to this Northwestern game instead of looking back for the moment, but it's in the context of what happened against Minnesota. This is a really, I think, kind of for a game, because of course every game is a reflection on the coaching, and the coaches are evaluated for every game, whether it be the head coach or the assistant coaches, John. But man, I can't think of too many times where the actual coaching, kind of in terms of specifics of motivation and being up for the game, for X's and O's as it pertains to the offensive line and play calling and protecting Dylan Raiola. Obviously, the players will be getting scrutinized, but there are going to be a lot of eyes and evaluations directly on whether the coaches have succeeded in this game based on just adjustments from what they said went wrong last week.
Well, first off, good morning, Lincoln. Good morning, guys.
Hello.
I like to look for omens and songs when I turn the music on, when I get in the car in the morning. And first thing I heard was Cyndi Lauper, Time After Time. Thought that's not going to work. Turned it over to the 90s channel, got Boys to Men. I'll make love to you. No.
How did that work?
Yeah, that's not going to work. The one,
Congratulations, John.
The next one was Jermaine Stewart.
Oh, wow.
And it goes a little something like this. You don't have to take your clothes off to have a good time. But enough about what Jack and Megan are doing tonight.
We can dance and drink some
No, dancing party all night
and drink some cherry wine, which I've heard is the finest type of wine.
I know it's the kind you and Megan love the most.
Cherry wine is like, hey,
the good cheap stuff. No, the actual one I landed on was from the Footloose soundtrack. I think it was Bonnie Tyler.
We need a hero. Yeah.
Yes.
We need a hero.
But that doesn't answer your question. What answers your question is you're right. This is so interesting that this gets to be the week and this gets to be the opponent where I think for some people, maybe a lot of people, that this might tip the scales, right?
Yep.
Because if they back up last Friday with another clunker against Northwestern, I mean, whatever you heard this week in terms of criticism, catcalls, extremism is going to get worse.
Yeah.
But if they can turn it around, if they can show, that they have resiliency, like they have shown this year in games, they've shown resiliency. If they can turn around and turn last week's complete and utter failure in terms of preparation, mentality, game execution, game planning, coaching, all of it. If they can turn that around and show that last week was a possibly a fluke, because I'm not gonna advocate that if they have a really good game tomorrow, that cancels out what happened last week. I mean, you can't do that. But it can at least give you an argument that was a fluke. That is not us. And so I think this week is going to be so much about what they've already done, the stuff that's already in the can as of this morning, because I think that's where last week was lost. And some of it, I can't sit here today and argue against anyone who wants to argue that the whole Penn State stuff had something to do with last Friday. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I also can't argue with someone against it because last Friday was so clunky. I've told this story many times, but I tried to go spoiler free on the game while I was doing Creighton basketball, the exhibition game against Iowa State. And I was this close to getting out of the arena without being spoiled. And then as I was consoling my friend Rob Anderson, a Brewers fan who had just, they just lost the National League Championship Series, his coworker said, yeah, Nebraska, and he didn't even get the word out. And I'm like, no, but he kind of said and I'm like, oh, man. I walk out. I didn't look at the score until I walked out to the car, was putting my gear away, and I said, all right, fine. I'm going to listen to Josh. I'm going to listen to our overreaction show, pull out the score app. And I audibly yelled, what the when I saw that score, because it blew me away. Yeah. Because in my head, as I'm making the walk out to the parking lot, it's like, yeah, it's probably like a field goal game. Maybe it was another one of those Iowa-esque late losses, or maybe Nebraska maybe they had the ball and turned it over.
Right.
Something close. 24-6 was not on my scorecard at all.
Yeah. Especially the 6. Yeah.
And that, it flabbergasted me. It absolutely flabbergasted me. And so, and this is coming from someone who didn't see it. I watched it when I got home. So I can only imagine how those of you who enjoyed it live, who watched it live feel. So this is a pivotal week. And I'm not saying it's the make or break to, is Matt Rhule going to make it? Is Matt Rhule going to stay? But in the minds of some people, and again, I don't know if I can argue against it. I'm not going to argue for it, but I don't know if I can argue against it, that there will be some major alarm bells, especially, guys, after what Matt Rhule said on Monday, where he basically sat in the pool chair next to the pool in Miami Beach with a young Brett Musburger taking notes next to him saying, we're going to win this game. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
He didn't say that, but he said, we are going to play good this week. We are going to show effort. What happened last week will not duplicate this week. And so you add that to the equation.
Yep.
And
That's yep.
So it's a very long-winded way of answering your question.
Yeah.
Ian, it was such a shock. And what bothered you was it felt like the things that should be almost push button right now, coming out, playing with effort, playing with fire, focus, that was not there in any way, shape, or form. And then, the offensive game plan, I think, had huge holes in it from the jump. I mean, that was a Minnesota team that hadn't been great either against the run or the pass. And Nebraska was slinging it around the lot. And, the first drive was 3 incomplete passes. And Dana Holgerson came back later this week and said, you know what, they were run pass options or whatever, but how do you not try harder to establish Emmett Johnson in that game? After the game he had at Maryland, he's coming home. He's going to be a little more locked in. So it started there. And then they started getting pressure on Dylan Raiola. Then they started, then you start losing offensive linemen. So they're getting more pressure on Dylan Raiola, and you're more reluctant to run the ball. And it all spiraled. And the other part of it that was really shocking, there was the X's and O's where Matt Rule basically called out both his coordinators and said, they didn't call the right plays. And then there was the entitlement thing. This when Matt Rule says we felt entitled, and when we went to the locker room down 7-6, we were down. We were hurting. This is a Minnesota team that has beaten you, 6 out of 7 and now 7 out of 8. What are you feeling entitled for? And yet that had pervaded. And as Matt Rule broke down on Monday, even among the coaching staff, there were some questions. How good is this Minnesota team really? Are you building these guys up, Matt? Turns out he wasn't. And that's a little shocking to me. Again, you try to take every game with its own history in life and every play with its own history in life. But how in the world do you as a Nebraska football player go, I will just walk in to Huntington Bank Stadium and they will see the N on the side of my helmet and collapse when they've beaten you 7 out of 8. That was the biggest alarm bell, but the game plan stuff worried me too.
Yeah. I guess one thing on that is like this coaching staff. Everybody associated with this program now, with very few exceptions, has one game against Minnesota, though. They weren't here for.
No, that's true.
I don't know how much all of that really factors in. Because it didn't factor in, to be honest, when I made my prediction, right? When I was looking at what Minnesota did this year. That's probably what they were looking at. And I'm not defending it, but I know as people have taken in, and we've got a decade plus long of context for this whole thing, we kind of say, well, you've got to know going into that situation. Well, even I didn't really factor that in. I was disappointed. I guess I'm entitled too, because I was disappointed when they went in 7-6.
But the part that concerns me is that there were some assistant coaches who seemed to be taking it lightly, just based on their attitude. You can't have that. And in my opinion, you can't have that among your lieutenants. Jack, I've been cutting up.
How does that happen against a Houston Christian?
I've been cutting up tape for coaches for 35 years, a lot of it in this room over my left shoulder. I've never heard that kind of an admission by a coach. I've heard it about players. Yeah. I've heard it about, I think we just took them too light. And it was more directed towards the players. But to say that there were some assistants, think of it this way, right? Y'all still do the garage sale, right? Big garage sale.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Amy comes downstairs. Amy comes downstairs, our general manager here, and says, "This is huge. This is important. We got to sell those spots. I got to get in the booth. I got to have it now." I'm trying to remember the line I used to have. I got to get in the booth now. I got to get in the booth now. But then Steve, our, I guess he'd be our middle manager or, our direct supervisor, when you guys are like kind of rolling your eyes and saying, really, we're doing this again. He's got to be the one to execute the plan and say, hey, guys, you really got to pump this up. Yeah. You really got to do this. And if his attitude is to take your attitude and say, yeah, don't worry about it. She's just flipping out. And then the day of the garage sale happens and there's only 5 tables sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's going to be a big, big problem, and it's going to reflect on everybody. So when your lieutenants are thinking that way, it crystallized everything for me. It made perfect sense as to why 24-6 happened.
Yeah.
And those things can't happen in an organization. And this is just me, but if I'm Matt Rule this week, I got that factored in the back of my head, and whoever said that is on a short leash with me this week, and probably got the whip cracked a little bit harder, saying, make sure that your room or your side of the ball or whoever it was that said it, make sure you guys are ready, because what happened last week is counter to everything I've been talking about all season long. This was the same program that put out a halftime video of the Akron game when Nebraska's up 40 or whatever the number was at halftime. And he's saying, guys are printing themselves in the window. I don't want to see that. If you don't like this attitude, there's the door. Right?
Yeah.
Those two don't jive.
No. And I had some trust after that, frankly, because I do think that this program's ability to get up for games they think they should win. I don't know whose fault it is, right? Probably, it's probably a tone the coach needs to set, but they did it for those 2 games where they were overmatched, right? And so I had a new level of confidence that, hey, we are attacking this issue that we have seen with this team over the years. And it looked to me like it was, I had assumed it was, I don't know if it was perfectly fixed, but it had been addressed. It was front of mind for everyone in the entire program. And
it
the
was
players,
certainly closer to
I thought it was,
addressed.
and then we hear that it wasn't. And I don't know.
And you go into the locker room down 7-6, and you haven't played well and things haven't gone right. Think back to the Maryland game. The middle 2 quarters of the Maryland game were pretty bad. And then, the middle 2 quarters of the Michigan State game, pretty bad. And yet they shook it off. They said, okay, we haven't played well, but we can start playing well. And Nebraska had the ball to start the 3rd quarter, and they did nothing. And just never pulled themselves out of it, where you could have gone into the locker room and going, fellas, I told you all week this was going to be a fist fight. You guys ready to start swinging? Start swinging. And it never happened.
And that was another thing, Nate, again, watching it on rewatch for the first time. I watched the first half when I got home on Friday, and I was like, they're not playing that bad.
Yep.
So how did it get to 24-6? It didn't. There were some missed opportunities. They once again had to settle for field goals in the red zone. But I didn't come away from the first half going, this doesn't look like a 24-6 to me. This looks like a game where you very easily could come out in the second half and fire back and get a couple of plays and turn the thing around. Mm-hmm. So, the halftime realization that Rule was talking about, again, everything crystallized for me on Monday after hearing that, because it's like, now it makes sense, because the first half was not a tire fire.
No,
it was not Michigan State 2nd quarter or 3rd quarter. It wasn't great. It certainly wasn't where you wanted to be, but it was not only was it a winnable game, it was a game where if you came out and fired the first shot, you could have staggered Minnesota to the point of, whoa, what are we doing here? Because remember, up to that point, Minnesota very conservative, punting on 4th and a foot. That it's you like could tell from the jump, their game plan was, we're going to play field position, and we're going to trust that we're going to have better fundamentals, and we're going to slow this game down, and we're going to run this ball, and we're going to take time off this clock. In some ways, it was kind of like the 2006 Bill Callahan USC game plan, where it's like, we're not going to take a lot of chances. But what happens when you get a little momentum? You start to get a little confidence. And then your defense is playing well. You start to get a little more confidence. I mean, the fact that this got to 24-6 with 0 turnovers.
Yeah.
Right.
It tells you it's all up here.
Yeah,
Sure.
it felt like it was out of Kirk Ferentz's playbook, to be honest.
It
right?
was a very
When he
it was
punted-
a Big Ten West.
I could
football
not
game.
believe
Yeah, it
he
was.
was punting that ball when it was,
I was
when it
too,
was
yeah.
4th and 1 there, the way that their offense had been moving. And I was like, man, you give it back to this Nebraska offense, they're going to figure it out, and you're going to wish you had that back. I was dead wrong.
Wrong.
Yeah.
He was right. BJ Fleck was right. I was dead wrong. I'm man enough to admit that whole thing. But going back to just the whole, not ready for what's so confusing to me is if this in fact this attitude was somewhere right there how did you do it against Michigan State and Maryland then? Because they're not materially different, in terms of like world beater opponents either compared to Michigan. They're all 3 of those games are in the same neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Well, but what did Michigan State come off of? A bye week and a loss,
right?
So again, the mindset, I think the mindset was got a little high and mighty, right? Which is why when they watch the film, and let's face it, if you watch some of the Minnesota film from this season, especially against Purdue, it's like,
right,
who are these guys?
So maybe it was
they couldn't run the ball. They can't do this. They can't do that. We're just going to walk. We're going to walk in there. And as Nate said, they're going to see the end on the side of the helmet and they're just going to curl up in the fetal position.
And maybe the way they won against Maryland gave them
a little too much.
Yeah. Especially where, arguably out of their last 8 quarters, 4 of them were not good. Were either bad or mediocre. Definitely not the top of their play. The other part, and there was just enough wrong to open the door for this. The fact that it was a short week, the fact that they had traveled both weeks, and those things are hard, and you should be able to address them. You should be able to say, to hell with it. We're going to go play a good game, and we're going to play the best of our ability. But you feel like those sort of things, those little things, plus a little entitlement, plus a little Minnesota mojo against you, it just all added up.
Yeah. There's also a part of me that sort of wants to, I know he said those things, that was there, but I wonder how, there's a part of me that wonders how much that is, there's a reason he said that. And because to be honest, there's another way of looking at it too, where it is in the Minnesota game, again, everything that was a problem has been a problem.
True.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Before the 2 out of the last 3 games, a quarterback has been completely under pressure, and it's really affected the offense.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happened. It happened again. That was new. Nebraska didn't seem to adjust as well to the whole thing, but there's a part of it that's about fire and taking things for granted and all of those things. But there's a part of it where it was like they haven't gotten better in pass protection. They haven't gotten better in mitigating those issues that can't be fixed with the play calling, right? They haven't gotten better at, the long run that Taylor had looked a lot like the long run Michigan had.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Rule said it to a T. It was an outside zone handoff.
It looks, and you had one defensive back who had the play, didn't make a good angle, didn't have a good ankle. You had missed tackles that you've occasionally seen this year. Like it was nothing like, oh man, they played completely different than they normally are than that because they didn't have the mindset. What happened in this game is just none of it changed, right?
Yeah.
Because
none of it changed, but it was more extreme because of the mindset.
Maybe,
right?
maybe.
Because 9 sacks is extreme.
Yeah,
I thought 7 against Michigan was bad. This was 9. And as Josh Peterson, your I-80 cohort, my co-host on 1620 The Zone said, 6 of them came at the end of drives.
Right. When they knew they were going to pass. Yeah.
Right. But it just, the early sacks put you behind the chains. The late sacks stuck the knife in you.
Right. Yeah. Right. But I will also say this again, to me, listen, you can blame almost everybody, I think, for the problem with protecting, with the sacks, those things, right? The O-line has a part of it. The pass protection from running backs has a part of it. Dylan Raiola has a part in it. But to me, the one thing that changed in the other games is it seemed like they found a way to scheme smartly around that and use the aggressiveness and the pass rush to their advantage in play calling. I don't think I saw that once during the course of the game against Minnesota, right? Because against Michigan State, what did you start to see? You saw a couple. You got Dylan out scrambling, right? You got those screen passes that work. Those two things changed the game. And you had Emmett Johnson run it, right? Those all changed the game against Michigan State, even against Michigan on that last drive when Nebraska went down and scored a touchdown.
I mean, honestly, Jack, that the Maryland game plan wasn't just put in the photocopier, or they reminded them, hey, hold on to your game plan from last week because that's what we're using this week. I was stunned at how bad I thought Dana called this football game.
Yeah.
You got to get that ball out quick. Where is quick game in this offense? Where are quick slants? Where are the screen passes? Where are the handoffs to Barney? Where are the push passes to Barney? Where are these things that are going to make the adjustments? Obviously, where is Emmett?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I think there was one time the entire night where he touched the ball on 2 consecutive plays.
Crazy.
Maybe it was 2 times, but it wasn't much more than that because he only had how many 16 touches total?
Yeah, 14 carries or something like that.
And at least 1 pass reception. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
I know you only ran 50 some odd plays, but that's unacceptable.
Right. And you say, where is Emmett? I'm sorry, Ja'Cory Barney cannot go through a game with only 1 touch. And I know Dana said 3 or 4 times he was the primary receiver, just didn't get open. I don't care. Hand him the ball.
Make him open.
Yeah, throw him the ball.
Get him the ball before
he's
he's covered.
Yeah.
Hand the ball to him.
Yeah, that at the absence of that in the scheme bothers me because it's not just Ja'Cory Barney is a really good player, though he is. He's an emotional leader for this team. And when your team is clearly flat, your team's just kind of treading water. How big a boost is it for Ja'Cory Barney to take a little swing pass and pick up 25 yards and leave 3 guys juked out of their jock? That's a pretty big boost.
Yeah. I have a theory that this is a theory only, but the offensive game plan, and this might go into what Matt Rule was talking about, not taking Minnesota's defense at least seriously enough. I think that maybe the Nebraska offensive scheme was cognizant of the fact that Minnesota had 2 cornerbacks that were injured, number one.
Yes.
I think they were cognizant of the fact that Minnesota has not had a lot of success in the pass rush this year. And then I think they were cognizant of the fact that there was so much talk about Emmett Johnson, this being the Emmett Johnson game, that they thought they were going to zig when Minnesota expected them to zag with the game plan and said, oh, you think we're going to go to Emmett all the time? Oh, no, we're going to make you think we're going to Emmett, and then we're going bombs away. Because we've got the receivers that we think can beat you. We think that's our biggest advantage. To me, if I had to guess, that's what went into this whole thing.
I think that's it.
There's a term in pro wrestling called you work yourself into a shoot. In other words, you take the fake stuff on the air and it turns into a real fight off the air or sometimes on the air. I thought Nebraska shot themselves into a work. They all those things you just said ended up being the work, aka the game plan. And then when it was an instant realization, or maybe not instant, but when it was a realization at halftime, when people were maybe walking around in a fog that, oh, this game plan's not going to work, there wasn't either time or there was too much shot or whatever the case may be, that they adjusted very well. Even though Emmett, he did have the short pass early in the second half where he made 5 guys miss.
He did look great when he had when he had his chances when he wasn't immediately buried.
But I think they shot themselves into a work, and it turned into.
I think they were
disaster.
confident in that game. They looked like they were confident in that game plan.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and there were opportunities in that game plan. The overthrow of Dane Key, the drop by Barney. I mean, they did have a couple of deep shots open, and that if either one of those hits, it's a different game.
But even at halftime, I'm like, you can't get hit. Dylan Raiola hit.
No,
you gotta do
because
something.
how many sacks were at halftime? Was it 4 or 5 at halftime?
I don't remember what the number was at half, but
it was up there.
3 in the second quarter.
3. Okay.
5.
5 at halftime.
And there probably could have been, as Matt Rule pointed out,
a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was the first.
Yeah, because weren't both of the Mahomes falling to the ground and the left-handed pass both in the first half?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like there could have been more. It could have been 9 in the first half.
Hey kids, it could have been worse.
All right, we got to take a break. We went long, but that was a good conversation. Let's hear a little bit from what was said this week. I know we've addressed some of it, but we'll get more into that and continue this conversation right after the break. Thank you for joining us this morning on the Friday Husker Tailgate, the eve of Nebraska Northwestern. You can hear it on KLIN. Breakfast with the network, 7 o'clock pregame, 11 o'clock kickoff here on KLIN. Back after this.
Volleyball hosts Northwestern. Tonight, game day broadcast presented by Max Tan. First set at 6 p.m., pregame at 5.
This is John Baylor. Catch Husker Volleyball all season long on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Your tailgate. But first, your Fantasy Huskers keyword, presented by Nebraska Sign Company. From Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLI.
All right. Final keyword of the week, guys, because I get the afternoon off. Thank you.
Volleyball.
Thank you, Danny Busboom Kelly and Nebraska Volleyball.
What the heck is a Mount Marty?
Yeah, well,
it's an exhibition game opponent.
but that's not
that's not
over
volleyball. That's
on
women's
the bone.
Sorry, that's women's basketball. What's a Northwest? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, Nebraska. You know what? This is kind of a point that's probably been made too many times, but you know a team that doesn't ever take anyone too lightly?
Nebraska volleyball.
Ever notice that?
Baby. Hey, that's the mark of a national champion.
I mean,
a perennial
like,
national
honestly,
championship
have
program.
you've almost never seen them do that? And if
They
they
had
do,
the
they
loss.
probably have. But this year, no, they haven't lost a set since that Creighton match.
I know.
Against teams that you could be and even you're going into stadiums that should be fired up.
That SMU match last year.
There you go.
But weren't they ranked?
They ended up being better than anybody thought they were.
Right. But that's an example of, why Osborne lost one game all time to a team that ended with a losing record, the 92 Iowa State game, because that approach was always everybody is tough. Take everybody seriously. And Nebraska volleyball has had that in spades for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of a Nebraska volleyball upset of a bad volleyball team.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
I'm sure
Minnesota's
there's
bad.
something.
Minnesota football's bad, but I'm
Right.
just saying those types of losses do not
But
happen.
I mean, this year, yeah, it's not even close to happening.
No.
They're wiping the floor with everyone still.
They're Penn Stating everybody.
Oh, so yeah, 28 set winning streak. Only 5 of them have gone to 20.
5 sets.
5 sets have gone to 20.
Just, I mean, honestly,
this is like Nebraska, New Mexico State in '82 type stuff.
It'd be a
Except
rolling
they're in the meat of their conference.
It'd
Yeah,
be
I
a
know.
fascinating study, and I'm sure Matt Rule does talk to. I'm sure he talked to Cook about these things, and like,
oh yeah,
just because there's probably just a part of it that goes along. There's confidence there. There's good confidence and bad confidence, I
Right.
suppose, right?
Sure.
Because the Nebraska volleyball team certainly has confidence, but I don't know if that you call that entitled. It's,
I mean, 90% of it is the mentality and how they prepare. The other 10% is Danny could go to if someone's not playing well or
There
someone's
you
got
go.
that attitude, Danny can turn to the bench and look at 5 or 6 other people and say,
that
in.
is a great point because I talked to
And it
Lincoln
changes.
Arneal with you, Nate, on Tuesday,
Mhm.
and I asked Lincoln that question, and I'm like, how do you think they keep this level? I don't expect them to be losing up a lot of matches, but just this thing, like you said, where they're sweeping everyone and nobody going to 20. And you know what he said? He said, because everybody on that roster knows that they've got someone right behind them that is going to start playing.
Yep.
Maybe with the exception of Harper Murray.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
And that's a lot what Osborne's teams had.
Right. Now, the flip side of that is there any way you could build that level of depth in this brand new world of college football?
Yeah, because think about it of the, on that offense, everybody, it's pretty clear, right? There's there's no position battles. Maybe there was kind of at tackle for a while, but
I mean, there's TJ. Sorry.
well, I mean,
John, no.
that has taken up way too much oxygen this week.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
But you're right. I mean, your point is very valid, Nate. As we're blowing the sound off completely off its rails, but
fantasy Huskers too.
But it is harder now in football with such big rosters and such money in it that the next man up mentality. It's a great mentality to have. It's a mentality you should always shoot for, but not many teams have a true next man up at a lot of key spots.
Right. And we even kind of saw that from Nebraska's offensive line. They were forced to with the Pritchett ejection.
They weren't ready.
Yeah, they were not ready, and they were not in a position to contribute.
Honestly, the only place you've really seen it feels like, is in the secondary a little bit, right?
Yeah.
With Guthrie
and a little bit at linebacker.
Yeah, that's really where you've seen it.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, secondary's probably been the best part of the team. If you think about it.
Everybody's
But
as sharp as they can be.
Knock on wood, they've really suffered just one
That's
critical injury.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
And certainly, a newcomer in Marshall, a freshman in Guthrie, a freshman in Jones, has been great. But they're the frontline guys. Who's backing them up?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of weird to think about maybe how much that injury of the Cincinnati game, Wood as they call him, Janiron Bonner, how much that might have been a bigger deal than we realized.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah,
than I realized.
I mean, it certainly affected pass pro.
All right. By the way, keyword is Wrigley. Wrigley.
Oh!
There you go, John. That one's for you. I think
my dog.
I think Steve timed it out that way for you. So Wrigley, Wrigley is the
Miss
and we're going to be
Wrigley.
picking 2, not 1, but 2 guessers because we have no show this afternoon. By the way, we're asking how much score against Nebraska. Really simple one. Everybody's kind of trying to undershoot it here now. Angie was the last guess. She said 9. She went one under Wade, who said 10. And then you have pretty much like every typical score between 13 and 24. You've got 13, 14, 17, 20, 21, and 24 all off the board. So
the play is to go 25.
Go 25, but you have 2 picks. And so it'll be whoever. It's going to be kind of, I don't know how we'll do that exactly. Probably just text one first and get it. And then the next one. Otherwise, you kind of go something weird like a 19. Right, or something like
then
that.
You're
just got to hit it on the nose.
I mean, all the prime scores, right?
Yeah,
all the prime scores above
from
10 in
from
football
10 and 24 are gone.
are taken.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna go 7. There you go. How about 7?
Yeah,
I like that.
the black
They
shirts.
could win 7-0 like they did against Colorado.
There you go. All right. Some of the clips, at least, that Nate has ready for us. What do you got for us today,
Well,
Nate?
yesterday's Matt Rule news conference didn't have a lot of meat to it. I mean, it was the fireworks were really on Monday, and so let's go back to that. Let's start with just the fault for the 9 sacks. That was the big black mark on the game. So where does Matt Rule place the blame for those 9 sacks?
I thought he avoided a lot of them, to be quite honest with you. I think there was, probably avoided another 4 or 5. I think as a quarterback, I think all quarterbacks have to always take it upon themselves to not get sacked, right? Like, I've got to get the ball out. I've got to change the protection. I've got to do something. So that's the way Dylan thinks. That's the way we think. With that being said, he was under duress. So to me, that falls on Dana. It falls on Donnie. It falls on me. It falls on the players. I mean, I've never, 9 sacks. I mean, there's nothing else really to say. Like, it just can't happen.
Yeah, it's simple enough. I mean, and you heard him call out Dana Holgorsen and Donovan Raiola by name. And yeah, hey, Dylan Raiola has been prone to holding on to the ball a little too long. Guilty as charged. Fine. But, it starts with the offensive line, and where what the offensive line is at this point, it really starts with Dana Holgorsen calling some things to get that ball out of there and to blunt the pass rush with more of a commitment to running the football.
Yeah. What's frustrating is just like, how rarely have you even seen just Dylan Raiola sort of dropping back, right?
Yep.
Like a normal,
Hitch
we see a million times on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then having a few seconds to survey the field, picking a receiver and throwing it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what that looks like.
It's been tough, and I think some of it is there's a little shell shock now where you get happy feet, where you almost anticipate, because it's happened so often, there's a rush coming, and it's going to be here faster than I think. And so those feet get to moving, and that's when he starts to dance a little bit. And what does that do? It shakes up your eyes. You're back there, and your eyes, where you got to be, you got to be steady and focused, because you got to be able to go read. But if you're back there and you're kind of doing the, little dance back there because you're getting happy feet, that becomes very hard to do. And so I think there's some of it that is shell shock based, because it has happened so often, so much, that it starts to get into your head. So if the mechanics were already a little bit shaky to begin with, it's just going to be worse when you start to feel the heat.
You think of Nebraska's best passing plays for the last 3 games, every single one of them has been, Dylan improvising, right?
Yeah.
Which has been a lot of you can talk about, like that Lindenmeyer one on the last drive of the Maryland game. He avoids a sack and then throws it completely across the field. He had a couple in the Minnesota game, weren't huge plays, but like you talked about, they were him improvising as well. The Michigan State game, it was him improvising to get that pass to Ja'Cory Barney.
Wow.
Ja'Cory ran his own route on
Right.
that, is what the coaches told us. Or you had the screen pass to Isaiah Hunter. So even so few of the passing that has worked has been, hey, here's the route. You get back there, you make a decision, we attack the coverage. Like, they haven't even had a traditional pass game.
No,
to be honest.
Yeah. And that's another reason why, you want to see some better calls, but I think you need to get Dylan out of the pocket. You got to roll him.
Right.
I mean, he made those 2 beautiful throws against Maryland. He had the touchdown earlier this season to Key where they rolled him out.
Right.
And on the run, he's really good. You have to scheme your way out of this to a degree, because your offensive line is what it is. I mean,
There's only so much you're changing.
You're not going to change a lot of personnel. You're going to be with a guy who's going to have a club on his hand. So you don't know, I don't Rocco's going to give it his best shot, but you don't know how he's going to react. So you're in a compromised position anyway. So you have to work around it under the assumption that this isn't going to get much better. You don't want to convey that to the team and say, you guys ain't going to get any better. You work to get them better, but you have to be ready for that, and you have to start to work, because then what that does is, if it starts to work, then it becomes kind of part of who you are, and then it builds confidence.
Sure.
And then, like the Maryland game, when the rollouts were working and the screens were working, what happened on the last drive? He had time to go downfield.
Yeah.
You know, the throw where he's falling back and hits Hunter down the near sideline, he had time to do that. Right. So, you know, it's all about mitigating your damages, but it's also about building confidence through the game.
Yep. Yeah, you know, we often talk, especially with this offense, about working backwards, the pass to set up the run instead of the run to set up the pass. Well, even going a little farther down that rabbit hole, you can use the simplified passing game, the rollouts where you're only giving him half the field, the screens where it's going to one guy, that sort of thing to get him started. And then you go back to him dropping back, full vision, 4 receivers going out, you scan the field, whatever. But start with the rollout stuff, the screen stuff, just to get a little rhythm in the offense. And there again, that goes back to the idea that I think when Dana Holgorsen flipped on that tape last week, he looked at Minnesota's DBs and went, this is going to be fresh meat. Yeah. And you know what? It didn't happen. And he was unable to shift gears to something else.
I want to play another clip too, but then, you know, this got me thinking too. It's also there's a part of it, right? When, and this hasn't been all the sacks, but one of the big problems has been these edges that are going in hard, right? That are aggressively pass rushing hard, either on a speed or on there. Like, how about a toss sweep to Emmett Johnson and get on the outside? Listen, I can't believe I'm saying this after the Scott Frost era. How about some more horizontal passes right away, right?
Smoke screens. Screens. I mean, you got a couple of guys in Hunter and in Barney that I think would be great on smoke screens.
That was the play that Dane Key scored. I mean, it was at the 1 yard line or whatever, but the Dane Key scored on something like that, you know? It's like those, you don't even see those.
No, you really don't. Or how about a draw play?
Oh, yes.
Right. All right, give me another clip, Nate.
Yeah, so plenty of issues on the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball, pretty easy. Your job is to tackle on defense. Huskers didn't do that all that well last Friday.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we do tackle circuit every day last week. We do it every day. We practice that way. At some point, you know, I'll do a great job of standing here and trying to be a leader and say I own it, but I'm sitting in that room just on the same page telling our players they got to own it. You know, like you don't get to just leave your feet and dive at people's ankles and think good things are going to happen, right? Like, run your feet, strike, get off blocks, make tackles. Like, we get beat on outside zone into the boundary, 4x1 outside zone, and they hit a 71-yard touchdown on 4x1 outside zone. At some point, you know, so I will take ownership of it. But I'm looking for some players who want to take ownership of it, because at the end of the day, that wasn't good enough, and that's everybody. So yes, it surely rests on me. But like, we're doing the drills, we're doing the tackling drills, we're doing all those things. You got to bring it to the game, and you know, I'm just constantly trying to teach our players nothing's happening to you. You know, you're not getting sacked. You know, you're giving up sacks. You're not missing tackles. We're not making the tackles. So we have good players. They've shown that they can do it. Go do it, and that's the growth in this team that has to happen this week. You know, there comes some times in life. There's like moments where you have to stand up, and so this is that week.
No doubt about it. This is the week, and he went back to the pass protection issue, but you know, it bothers you that Nebraska so totally abandoned their fundamentals on the defensive side of the ball, where they were just diving at people. And Rule said it's not something that they were repping in practice, but the minute it got tough, those went away.
I don't know if you have this one queued, but the John Butler soundbite from earlier this week, when he basically said, hey, we went vanilla. In a way, we kind of panicked after that big play.
We do actually have that, if you'll roll that, Kenny.
I didn't call the game as aggressively as I had planned. You know, we started off pretty strong the first 2 drives, got into a decent rhythm, and then after that explosive run, you know, that probably affected me more than it should, and it shouldn't. You know, every play has its own life. So what's going to happen on the next play is not about what has happened on the previous play. So kind of a what's next mentality. I've got to stick to the plan and say, regardless of what happened on the previous play, we still got to approach the game with an aggressive mentality. A little bit of a learning experience for, I think, all of us. I didn't call the game.
So interesting that he, we've criticized Dana Holgerson for being too beholden to what was on his play sheet and what he had thought the whole week. Whereas, John Butler should have stuck to the plan a little better. I mean, that was a Minnesota team that was not running the ball that well. And yet Nebraska couldn't slow down their run game.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, there were like 3 big plays in the game. There was a long run by Taylor, right?
Yep.
Where there was good blocking and one shot at it kind of, and you missed it.
Yeah.
Then you had the great play the pass by Lindsey on the touchdown. He just made a great pass on that one.
Beautiful pass.
Like
dropped in the bucket.
He only had to do that really once during the game,
time.
and he nailed his opportunity. Then you had that long catch down to the 1 yard line where they almost scored. It did end up scoring by Jalen Smith at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Other than that, what the missed tackles were turning 2 yard runs into 6 yard runs.
Yep. That's how you get 17 play drives.
And that's
Correct.
how you have a crap load of 2nd and 3s instead of 2nd and 12.
And the insane thing about that 98-yard drive, they didn't face a third down.
That's because they had 2nd and 3.
Yeah.
How do you have we all remember nightmare flashbacks 2021 Northwestern? Remember that game clinching drive they had after Nebraska got it to 1 score? How many third and I think they even converted a 4th downs did they have on that drive? Not a single third down on a 12 plus 13 plus play 98-yard drive. You didn't even have a chance to get yourself off the field.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it was a long drive, and man, and not a huge not a ton of huge plays up until they score.
Nickel and dime.
All right, we'll take a break. We're gonna give out helmet stickers after the top of the hour. This will be an interesting one. We'll see where everybody went.
Are there 3 players?
All right, 6:57. We'll take a break. Friday Husker Tailgate rolls on KLIN.
Husker men's basketball hosts Midland University Monday. Game day broadcast presented by Wolf Electric. Tip-off at 6:30 p.m. Pre-game at 5:30.
Hi, everybody. This is the voice of Husker men's basketball, Kent Pavelka, inviting you to join us all season on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
KLIN.
Raiola takes a snap, fade route, back run to the end zone.
Touchdown, Huskers!
Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw, blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline.
50-50 ball! It's picked off! The black shirts with the dagger! Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick sails the night for the Big Red.
Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3.
You know, I was hearing that Malcolm Hartzog highlight. Boy, how's that? Gets injured the next week, and now Matt Rule told us that he's going to have surgery and maybe could play in a bowl game, but otherwise he'll be taking a redshirt year. So, man, that was sort of the end of this season for him. But nice if he could get back for a bowl game, because as we know, during bowl games, who knows who will be playing and who won't. And if he's sticking around, maybe he'll be wanting to do that. But yeah, the Nebraska secondary still, for the most part, having a really solid season. I even saw Sierra Wright got some recognition. The Athletic put him on their second team All-American team.
Yeah,
mid-season. Which I was
didn't we talk about this last week? The guy might not accumulate any stats of significance.
Unbelievable.
But is so important. And I think might be really important this week for things we can talk about later.
Like, I've seen him 4 times this year, I think. Like, noticed him on the
field.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, he must be, and it was again last week, because it feels like you see Marshall and Jones and those guys all the time.
Sure, because
they're throwing. I mean, Jones, they decided to pick on Jones last week.
Yeah, they did.
And so it's crazy. So I'm glad Sierra is getting some recognition. It's almost like you wish you could sort of leverage him somehow a little bit more somehow. How about look corner blitz or something sometime? I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, I think he their top receiver, Wildy, and that's how it's pronounced. It looks like Wild, but it's Wildy.
It is Wildy.
Has double the targets and more than double the catches of the next nearest Northwestern receiver.
Know who to put on him.
And I know that Sierra's been playing the nickel corner, but this might be a game where you switch things up a little bit and you make sure that Sierra is on Wildy for much of the game, because that is such a security blanket that the quarterback has had this year for Northwestern, that you might switch it up a bit, because you anticipate that Nebraska is going to go heavier this week in terms of defense, because they're going to probably sell out to stop the run, because that's what Northwestern wants to do. So with that said, that's going to mean a lot more, single coverages in the back end. So that could be a possibility. I want to make a real quick correction. We talked about that 98-yard drive. I want to thank Adam, who's listening this morning. Minnesota did face 2 third downs on that 98-yard drive. They also converted that 4th down, but on a penalty.
It was a penalty.
That was the Donovan Jones penalty. So I want to correct something I said earlier in the show.
But still,
thanks,
not.
Adam.
But I mean, the point stands is
It was 3rd and 3, 3rd and 3, 4th and 3.
By the way, what was their longest? I don't know if you can see it quickly there. Before the touchdown, what was their longest play during that drive? Because it felt like there weren't many.
12. The third play of the drive was a 12-yarder. That might 11.
Wow.
And then the touchdown was 20.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Oh, the touchdown, yes. The
touchdown was 20, but before that, 12 and 11 were
But
the
even
two
they weren't
longest plays.
gashing them with huge runs.
Nope. Just pound away.
Nope.
Take
Nickel
care
and
of
dime.
you.
The drag routes over the middle, and
dime.
And then again, runs where you get first contact at 2 yards and falling forward.
And by the way, Minnesota also had a false start on that drive that made it 1st and 15, and they also faced a 2nd and 11 that was converted on one of those one of the 12-yard plays for a first down.
Do you know Sierra Wright has 10 tackles this year?
Again, sounds right.
He hasn't even really had
I hope
he has 4 solo tackles on the year.
Because I know how we think in the media. We just, when we vote on these things, we just look at stats. The coaches probably won't, but we could have a real controversy. The coaches all-conference team might have Sierra Wright as first team.
Right.
Yeah.
The media might not have him on there at all.
Right.
If they're just looking at stats. Because Sierra Wright is not going to accumulate probably any stats of significance.
Right.
But he is the most important guy on the defense.
Yeah.
And he is as rock solid a lockdown corner as we've had here since I don't know when.
Guys who have as many or the same amount of tackles as him: Michael Booker III, Bryce Turner, Jameer Khan. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
Yet on the pass breakup stats, he's got 4, and nobody else has even 3 on the entire team.
Right.
I mean, they're barely thrown on him. So
this is where the advanced metrics hopefully can tell a little story there for Sierra Wright in terms of,
the actor.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But, I'm sure the stat is out there somewhere. How many times has he been targeted? How many times?
Absolutely.
I was hoping to see some of that. It's not on these stats.
I haven't seen them in the Nebraska game notes, but if you took out the Pro Football Focus stuff out of Northwestern's game notes, they'd be about 3 pages. Because that's all it is.
Yeah.
So I would hope that at some point the good folks in Sports Info at Nebraska, and they generally do a terrific job, will hit those and highlight those, because I think that's going to be about the only way to illuminate how good Sierra Wright has been this year.
He's got 1 helmet sticker. Maybe we should be giving him helmet stickers today. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Speaking of which, let's do some helmet stickers. Nate, we've been doing John starting for a while, so why don't you start this week?
Well, after that game, it's tough to select guys who had good games, right? But I'm going to go to the guy that maybe made the best play for Nebraska, and that'd be the punter, Archie Wilson. Nebraska obviously did not take advantage of it, but that punt pinning Minnesota at the 2 was as good as it gets, and overall he was really good. 5 punts, 45 yards a punt. So give it to Archie. It goes down under.
Yeah. Do you have Archie, John?
I did not.
I did, by the way.
You did?
So
okay.
I'll just echo real quick what Nate said. There was, I think, some concern the Michigan State game and the wind. He didn't have as good a game, but he's been as advertised for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Gone both ways with those things, and that was a great play. Special teams really still delivered during the course of that game.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, even still, it's crazy to say you had no turnovers and special teams did as well, if not better, than the opposition, and still
you weren't a part of it.
That's crazy. All right, John, who's your first one?
I'm going to go with the guy who had the best overall grade on defense from Pro Football Focus and the best tackling grade on a day where Nebraska didn't tackle well. His tackle grade was 84, which is really pretty good. He was 3rd leading tackler overall, Deshaun Singleton. 7 tackles, 4 solos. But yeah, his tackling grade was the best on the defense. His overall grade, according to Pro Football Focus, was best on the defense. So I'll go with Singleton as my first.
By the way, Archie now has 4, adding 2 more there. And then Singleton I don't see Singleton.
There he is.
There he is. Yep. All right. That's only his second, but he does move out of that big group of 1s, and he does get his second. All right. Since I had the same as you, Nate, we're back up to you.
Yeah, I'll go over to defense, and this guy has been really good lately, and obviously very important as Nebraska tries to slow down another running attack this week. I'll go Javen Wright over, dozen tackles again, involved defensively, and you just feel really good for the fact that he is finishing out his Husker career this way. A kid that's been through so much personally, ridden the ups and downs with this program through the Scott Frost era, and is playing his best football right now. So Javen Wright gets one from me.
It's interesting, Nate. Earlier, I pointed out to you when you were talking about sort of not taking Minnesota lightly and talked about the history. And I said, well, nobody in this program really, has the history prior to the one game in 2023. Javen Wright does.
Yeah, he sure does.
He's been a part of what? Three more of them.
Yeah,
at least.
So, yeah.
As being a team member as well. So he was there, right? He would have been down there during the pandemic game, right? When Minnesota came out without the players. The 2021, all of these games that have been so painful against them. So that's kind of interesting as well. All right, John, who you got?
I'm going to go with another person. He had the third best tackling grade according to Pro Football Focus, and one of the top 2 or 3 overall grades. He had 6 tackles overall, a half tackle or half sack in the game. I'm going to go with Keona Davis.
Oh,
as
that's got to be
his first. I'm pretty sure of that. But good, pretty decent numbers on PFF. And when you only get 2 or 3 tackles for loss and 1 sack, he was part of one of them. I'm going to go with Keona Davis because, outside, I know there was a misassignment on the long run on the offensive or defensive line. Jay Moore on NET's, it's not NET, but Nebraska Public Media's Big Red Wrap-Up broke that play down. I thought, even though the defensive line wasn't great, I do think Davis had a decent game, and we are stretching a little bit this week with a 24-6 loss, but I'm going to say Keona Davis.
It's interesting. I'm looking at the defensive line as a whole, and it's not been a huge strength this year. I guess if there is some level of optimism about it, is that you've got Keona Davis, you've got Petschak, who now has been a pretty big contributor. You've got Van Poppel. Like, these guys are all sophomores or freshmen still,
sure.
Even though Van Poppel, it feels like, has been here for years. Like, they're all, and the one thing that generally has happened with most players, maybe Cam Leonard has been an exception, but generally we've seen year to year is that the defensive linemen who are getting time really make a jump from year to year within this program. That's one thing the program's done well.
Yeah, they've grown defensive linemen, and maybe people scoffed when they heard Matt Rule talk about, well, we're one of the youngest teams in the Big Ten still, and we're doing what we're doing. But you talk about that defensive line, and especially once you get past the starters, once you get past Judy, who's a senior, and Lenhart's a junior, and it gets pretty young pretty quick. And even Williams Winery,
another freshman,
who's been your best, is a redshirt freshman. So there's at least hope among that bunch.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't have a lot of defections, I mean, you're going to lose Elijah Judy from that defensive line.
Yep.
But other than that, right, you've got this whole group coming back next year, and hopefully a big step for them, assuming there aren't any other wholesale changes that change the roster. All right, my turn. I'm going special teams again. Hey, Kyle Kanan 2 for 2. Like, once again, a position that Nebraska has just not been able to depend on for years and years and years. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Is the only miss the one again? Is there 2
against
misses?
Michigan?
Michigan.
Miss.
That's it.
That's it. That is it. Made every.
There haven't been a lot. There haven't been a lot of field goals kicked, but I don't know. Like, it's almost in a way, it's almost been too bad. Like, he really hasn't even had much of a pressure field goal, to be honest. Right? Like, to some degree.
And I think he's going to be important this week because Northwestern is very much a bend but don't break defense. Their finishing drive rate on defense is really, really good. So I think field goals could be important this week because if Nebraska can get in that scoring zone, I don't know if this is necessarily a week where you're going for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 3, just based on Northwestern's reputation. So I think Kyle as I call him, the conspiracy, because his last name looks like QAnon.
Yes.
I think Kunanen could have a very important role this week.
He's kicked more than I even thought. He's 11 for 12.
Right.
I thought it was fewer than that. So 11 for 12.
That's a good one.
Just hasn't been there forever.
Right. No,
forever. And it's just been a weird year in that, you've of course needed them. There just haven't been like real big ones.
He's been the most consistent. And I looked this up last week and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Remember in COVID, Connor Culp won the kicker of the year in the conference because I think he went something like 17 for 18, or I don't remember what the number was, but he only missed like one. Now they were all like chip shots, but it was not a great year for kickers. But Kunanen has been the most consistent that Nebraska's had since Culp.
Yeah. Sure. So hopefully, because it still feels like there's going to be a time, especially the Iowa game, right, where you're going to have big field goals in probably bad conditions.
Even think about this offense and how prone it is to sputtering in the red zone. I mean, every time you go to the red zone, you got to score, especially in Big Ten play.
Well, to be honest, how many field goal opportunities does he miss by going for it on fourth downs? To be honest, like sort of these emotional go for it situations.
Yeah, I can think of a couple. Sure.
So that'll be his first helmet sticker of the year. Wow. All right, Nate, last one.
I thought about giving this to the bus drivers just for getting Nebraska away from the site of that disaster. I'll go Marquez Watson. Marquez Watson Trent. I mean, double-digit tackles, stepped in okay for Vincent Shavers, and maybe this is a little predictive too, because especially with Shavers battling a hand injury, you've got to think Watson Trent will be out there quite a bit and will be very important this week. So I'll go Marquez Watson Trent, even though my first inclination was the bus drivers.
All right.
I'm going to second that too. He had one of the best grades overall, one of the best run grades overall from PFF. And coming in for, as Matt Rule calls him, V9, and it drives me nuts when he says it, not because it's not a bad nickname, but I keep wanting to yell. There's no such thing as a V9. You can't have a V9. It has to be even number cylinders on both sides. I'm a car guy.
Yes.
But that's important because Watson Trent, he was in the starting lineup at the beginning of the season. We thought, this is one of those guys because of, with the Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year stuff from last year, he was going to be plug and play. And outside of the splash play he made early in the Houston Christian game, it felt like he was a non-factor. For him to come in that spot after he had already been replaced, that's hard to do. When you start the season, when there's a lot put on your plate and people believe that you're going to be the guy and then you're not the guy anymore, and then you get pushed back into being the guy and you come up like he did with some of the numbers that he had. I mean, he had 49 snaps, which is almost as many as Javen Wright had. I think it's a good helmet sticker for Marquez.
All right. I'm going to call an audible on my last one after the discussion that we had leading into this segment. I was going on a different direction, but if you have a mid-season All-American or second-team All-American, it's kind of, I think it diminishes the reputation of the helmet stickers if the person only has one. And so while I don't know, it was kind of the same game that it's been for Sierra Wright. He's sort of invisible again for the most part. Didn't get burned. I know that, right? Yeah. Didn't get burned in the passing game. And so I'm going to give him, it's kind of a season achievement award to some degree that I'm going to give him here. So, but he needs that.
Is this like the Academy Award? Who wasn't it John Wayne that got the Academy Award just for lifetime achievement? Yeah. And they made it up on the fly because, hey, this dude's never won one before and he's dying, so we got to give him one.
Yeah, it's like the MTV Video Vanguard Award. You didn't necessarily have good videos this year, but we want to tribute to your entire.
Sorry, Pat Benatar, we just didn't think it was good enough, but. You
were in a tough bracket.
You were very influential on adolescent boys. So here's your Vanguard
so you still
Award
get a
from
spaceman,
MTV.
right?
Yes.
That's a deep cut. All right, we will take a break right now. That's it for helmet stickers. We're going to count down the 5 things we think you're going to be talking about this Husker weekend. Kevin Suits joined us a little over a half hour from right now as well. Looking forward to getting his take on the Nebraska-Minnesota game. And we'll look at Northwestern on and off the field as well with opposition disposition, and the picks are coming as well. Did Nate get out of the cellar?
Yeah, I'm running out of hope here.
It's 7:20. He's going to have to go
We're
on
playing
tilt.
for next year.
Abandon all hope. You enter the studio.
Play the young guys. All right, it's LNK today with Jack and friends of the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
When you're Huskers,
Accelerates up the middle, grinds his way across the 35-yard line.
think 1499.3 KLIN. 5 topics to get you going for game day. It's a special Friday Husker Tailgate edition of the Morning Drive, presented by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management on Lincoln's 199.3 KLIN.
Make sure heed those warnings that Chris Lofgren mentioned with deer. About 15 years ago, I hit a deer with the KLIN vehicle.
Ooh.
Still coming back from a golf tournament, and
and then we made the mistake.
It was not pretty.
We put it in the back, and this was back when we had the drop top, and then then somehow the deer woke up, and then I freaked out, and he freaked out, and it tore the crap out of the car, and Jack just stood there, mouth gape, saying, "That was awesome."
Yeah. Put it in the back. John says, "What are you gonna do with it?" I said, "I don't know. Take it to the vet." John said, "What? You gonna take? What? Take a dead animal to the vet?" I said, "I'll take you to the vet."
I knew you'd come up with the finish to that.
Well done.
All
Well
right.
executed.
Let's count them down on today's Morning Drive, brought to you by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management.
Number 5.
Well, we've covered this a lot already, but it might introduce kind of another larger discussion, though. While like any team, Nebraska has several areas to clean up. But at this point, you look at the full season thus far, is there anything even remotely close to the difficulty in dealing with opposing pass rushes that is a concern for you? I'm not saying there aren't any other concerns, but like, where's number 2 even at for this team?
I mean, I guess number 2 would be run defense, because it is still one of the lower run defensive numbers when you look at the traditional and the metrics. But right now, it's a very distant second.
Right?
I mean, we're talking extreme here. Sam McEwen, I don't know if I have it up on my sheet. Sam McEwen, though, had a nugget in his rewind column this week that had to do with the number of sacks. I'm gonna stall for time here as I look it up, because I know I have it on one of my sheets. But last year, Nebraska gave up something to the effect of, I think it was 2.5 sacks a game. Here it is. Last year, Nebraska allowed 2.89 sacks per Big Ten game last season, which was the worst in a decade.
Last year.
This was last year. This year in Big Ten play, 4 games in, they've allowed an average of 5.5 sacks. That's double last year. And I thought, I did the math in my head, which is dangerous. If they give up no more sacks the rest of the season, they're still going to be giving up about 4 sacks a game in Big Ten games, which is still going to beat what they did last year. So it's just incredible what has transpired this year. I mean, when Sipple asked the question in the press conference, Matt, that's extreme, isn't it? Yeah, it's extreme. I misspoke. If Nebraska gives up no more sacks this year, it would be 2.4 sacks per game, which is better than what last year would have been total. But basically, they only need to give up 1 or 2 more sacks the rest of this Big Ten schedule, and they will have outdone what they did last year in Big Ten play, which was the worst numbers in a decade.
And here's the maddening thing to me about that. Because the guys on this year's offensive line, right, with the exception of the transfers who came in, who people have talked about, especially Spindler, as being an asset to the offensive line, and we've seen it. But it's like Lutovsky and Gatula and Evans, like, they were in on those lines. They were in on the line last year, for sure, right? Turner Corcoran was on some of those other lines that wasn't giving up sacks. It's like these guys didn't forget how to play. Like,
no.
It's not like you brought new green guys in that haven't ever proved it. There's not a player on that offensive line that really fits that bill.
We made the mistake.
So baffled.
We made the mistake of thinking, because remember, they gave up 3 against Cincinnati. Not great, but no panic, right? Because those sacks didn't feel like they altered that game.
Right.
But then Michigan happened and the tackles got used up. But what was one of our big takeaways from that? Well, I mean, Michigan's got the best rush ends in the league. They outdid us. We were concerned, but we kind of downplayed it by saying, well, that was an extreme example. Wrong.
Yeah.
And Minnesota took it to the next level. Yeah. And so your point is very valid. There's experience up there. There's guys who played with this team last year. How is this happening to such an extreme level that we haven't seen before?
Like, I'm not saying that it's filled with all Americans, but look,
it's not filled with crumbs.
They've regressed.
Yes,
hey,
badly.
How good does Ben Scott look right now?
Yeah, I know. What was Ben Scott last year? Was that the key, or
it might be?
Well, the center's got a big role.
Was it
calling out checks and stuff like that? No, absolutely.
Here, my theory is Ben Scott was the guy that made sure the protections were as good as they could be, and Spindler's a step up. Spindler's really good. You've not gotten what you hoped for out of Pritchett. And then, while Justin Evans, you feel like he's held the fort at center, at the same time, when guys are coming free, when you've got two guys getting to the quarterback, they both get to the quarterback. There has to be a hole in protection, especially when the two starters left the game in the first half. The protection was awful, and I have to believe, it's at least my theory, that it's Justin Evans not being able to communicate well enough or make the check well enough to set the protection. I mean, you think back on some of those sacks where, two guys were blocking one rusher and one rusher was coming free. That's my working theory, because, yes, by the personnel, it shouldn't
There's
be
this no way.
No.
Listen, I mean, Gatula stepped in last year unexpected after an injury as a freshman, essentially.
Yeah.
And while he wasn't perfect, I remember saying last year multiple times, man, I'm impressed with what this guy has done to step in like this, right? He had some game, he gave up, I think Illinois, he gave up a play or two, but there was no way, we were not ever looking at him and being like, this is a huge issue for pass protection. Lutovsky's been playing since Scott Frost.
Yeah.
Like he's been getting time in. Like, are these guys all having their worst year of their career right now? I mean, I don't, that's what's so baffling to me. Evans has been lauded his whole career.
Yes, sure.
And you're right, he switched positions, but like he's been looked at as the highest grading, and I just don't get it.
But the center, the center's got a big responsibility in calling out some of the protections. And I don't know, I mean, if they were asked straight out, how much of that mechanics have changed, and are there some things that are being missed there because Ben Scott's gone? I don't know if they would answer those questions because they don't want to give away, but it's a good question, right? Yeah. Because we've kind of looked at the tackles only as this being the issue, but it is 5 across.
Right.
Yep.
And frankly, you've had the same guy coaching them all those years too.
Sure. It's not like
there's not much changed.
Right.
But we mentioned this kind of in passing. What's the big injury on this team? Janiron Bonner. Right. And so the things that you might have done to support those offensive tackles, keeping a tight end in, Janiron Bonner was that guy.
Right.
And there really isn't another tight end on the roster that would fill that role. Lindenmeyer's too important as a receiver. Harburg's a converted quarterback. And Carter Nelson is a catch-first tight end. He's still moving from wide receiver to tight end.
Yeah. He's a slot wide receiver,
essentially,
for the most part.
A slightly larger slot wide receiver.
Yeah.
So what you might have done to support the tackles, and I'm not saying they've done a good job. I'm not saying that they haven't deserved some of the stuff they've caught, but the things that you might have done to support them, you have fewer options there.
The other thing, one of the reasons I got frustrated in the last 2 years, Emmett Johnson didn't see the field more. One of the reasons that was articulated was his pass protection was one of the reasons too.
And it was a speed bump.
And
on
as much as we praised him this year, that one blitz was rough. Yeah.
Number 4.
To what degree do you guys think it's possible, again, something we've hit a little bit, but possible to scheme and play call around whatever issues exist with the offense's ability to prevent pressure from getting home? That, you've got some of these issues that aren't changeable this year, of course, although I think maybe some more are than we think. But if so, what does that scheme look like with the personnel that you've got on the Nebraska offense right now? Nate, like we've talked about a little bit, but if you were given the opportunity to say, hey, these are the plays that I think maybe would have a chance of being more successful, what are you looking at?
A lot of draws, a lot of rollouts, a lot of slip screens, quick screens, swing it out to Barney. Ja'Cory Barney in the backfield. I don't know why that's not a tool that has been used, because you have so many more options to get him the ball and get it to him quickly instead of waiting for him to get open. Just get him the ball in space. But a lot of draws and some rollouts, because the other thing is it feels like Dylan Raiola is overthinking everything. If there's one critique, and that idea is understandable as much as he's been hit, but one way to cut down his thinking is cut down his options, the number of people he's reading. So roll them out. If that means you only have 2 receivers out, that's fine. You have those 2 receivers have to win. Surely, Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter, one of them can win, and go from there. So a lot of rollouts, a lot of screens, more of a draw game with Emmett Johnson, and then go from there.
Where are the timing routes in this offense?
Sure.
Where's the 1, 2, 3 step throw, the quick slants, the things you see in the red zone, the things you see, when a team's got a 4th and 1, where it's like Matt Stafford, 1, 2, 3, boom, there was Cooper Kupp, or, 1, 2, 3, boom, there was Des Bryant, or whatever. Just something that was quick. It got the ball out of your hands, and it put some pressure on the defense, especially if their DBs are playing a few yards off the ball. It was something where it was in timing. I don't recall seeing much of those.
I don't know.
I'd say jet sweep. I still would like to see a jet sweep with Barney, or the push pass. I think we've seen a couple of those this year, but it's the Maryland game plan. The Maryland game plan did exactly what you need to do against a team with an aggressive pass rush, and that is fool them with screens, get the running game started, stuff that gets some momentum for you, because once that happens, then all of a sudden that front 4 or front 7 has to play a little bit on their heels, realizing we don't know what's coming here, and we just can't tee off and go after somebody. Yeah. And then the deep routes start to develop, and then the opportunities downfield start to develop. But it's got to be quick game early. It's got to be run the ball early.
Yes.
And then if it's working, that's when you start to slow down their pass rush, because they don't know what's coming next.
I agree on all of it. It's interesting, John. I should go back and watch the Cincinnati game, because what I remember about the Cincinnati game is those passes that you described.
1, 2, 3, boom, out.
Yeah. I remember complaining a little, because I thought, I was like, okay, at some point you got to go downfield with it. I was on the other side of it after that game to some degree. They did a ton of that in that game.
I guess you're right.
We should go back and look at that game. They did a ton of quick passes, and guys just kind of setting up in the middle of the field, kind of the pass rush coming in, getting in the zone with Cincinnati, and they were hanging back a lot, but I think other teams are too against Nebraska as well. And so that's it. Everything you said, Nate, everything you said, John, I agree. The only thing I would add is just like, hey, like if they're coming in the middle of the field towards Dylan, and when he's dropping back, you've got the flats, right? You've got the flats. You've got running plays, whether they're jet sweeps or whether they're tosses to Emmett, like a pitch. Give Emmett Johnson, goodness sakes, a pitch, right?
Sure.
A pitch on the outside. Let him get out on the edge. As great as he's been at, one of the things he's not had a lot of success is, just kind of barreling into the line and being super, just running over people. That's not been him, in the middle of the line. I'm passing it to, and they are passing it to him a lot already, but
sure.
And what John talked about, right? I mean, Lindenmeyer, man, in the middle of the field. Heck, Carter Nelson's so big, get him in there.
Sure.
Right?
I just found the Cincinnati game, the cut-up game in 40 minutes. Third play of the game, 3rd and 4. They have, Here's Emmett coming into the backfield. He's going to be on the left hip of Dylan. Dylan's going to take the ball from shotgun, and they're going to throw it here in the slot. And I think, that's Ja'Cory.
Unbelievable.
You called it.
It was the whole game.
I mean, right there.
It's the whole game.
Right there.
They did that the entire game to the point I was pissed about it.
Right.
I was like, throw the ball downfield. Drop him back and throw it deep.
And I'm pretty sure Northwestern likes to do some of the same stuff Cincinnati likes to do.
I'm telling you, watch that Cincinnati game.
Yeah.
Where has that
Third
gone?
play of the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Number 3.
Matt Rule surprised a lot of people with his press conference comments on Monday from saying some of his assistants didn't take Minnesota seriously enough to talking about a sense of entitlement and assumption by the team that they wouldn't be in a tight game against Minnesota. What did you guys make of that? And John, how do you think it might impact the coming weeks here after he said that?
Well, I've said that this was the most alarming thing that came out of it, because you can't have your lieutenants not executing the full plan of the coach or having the same attitude as the coach. You've got to be able to deliver that message that this is our game plan and we're taking these guys seriously if you're a program that truly believes in the nameless, faceless opponent. That said, rant mode off. How can it impact the coming weeks? We find out this week.
Yep.
Because Northwestern's coming to town. This isn't like last year when Nebraska followed its worst game of the year, Indiana, with Ohio State.
Right.
With Ohio State, all antennas are up, all alert is up, all attention is up, because you don't want to get humiliated. And what did Nebraska do? Probably played their best defensive game of the year last year against Ohio State, and came pretty doggone close to shocking the world. You don't have Ohio State coming in. And so this is a true challenge of nameless, faceless opponent, because the nameless, faceless opponent is a program that people love to look down their nose at, even still today. So this will be the challenge of, did you learn something from last week? Are you taking these guys serious? It's sad that it had to take Friday night to do that. But if you do that, then you've learned from it. But if you don't, you got systemic problems.
Yeah, that's just it. It's funny that the schedule and how it's set up. So you feel like Nebraska gets a mulligan for the Michigan game. They get another shot at it with the USC game. Home game, big name brand opponent, still kind of flawed, but really good. This, too, is a mulligan game where you're going to have to bring your own energy. It's an 11 a.m. kick. We've heard all the negativity around the program, and the minute, if they go 3 and out on their first drive, you're hearing boos. And by the way, Matt Rule more or less, licensed them to do so. Yeah. So it's your chance to say, you know what we did Friday is not our typical. We played poorly, but like John said, we've learned from it. We understand what we have to do. In a lot of ways, Northwestern, just talent-wise and kind of what they do and who they are, they're almost carbon copy of Minnesota. So, okay, what'd you learn? And hopefully being home, even though it's an 11 a.m. kick, gives them a boost. Hopefully just being hungry to win again gives them a boost. But it's just a chance to respond. We'll find out pretty quick where they are.
Yeah, you put a lot of eggs in the game in this basket. I mean, there was anyway, but kind of with doubling down like you did on
Yes.
what the problems were on Monday. So yeah. All right, moving on.
Number 2.
Well, man, remember last week? Last week, most of our show was spent on Matt Rule and a possible opportunity at Penn State. I believe this is the first time it's been mentioned 1 hour and 53 minutes into the show.
Yep.
I heard very little of that talk this week, John. I'm sure you guys didn't talk a ton about it.
We forbid it on our show this week.
Is this something that's going to fade into the background, or would a win here or maybe a couple of wins make it feel like a potential thing again?
Tyler Donahue, who has probably been one of the better reporters down on the ground there in College Station or State College, I always get the two mixed up, State College, PA, did follow up with some of the people on the Board of Regents, and there are still supporters of the Matt Rule candidacy even after the loss. So this story is not gone, and it won't go away, especially if Nebraska turns it around this week. And then I mean,
if they would get
if
twice,
they were to beat USC, then it's going to get even louder. So no, this is not gone. It's gone this week, which has been one of the few positive byproducts of Friday night, but that's a Pyrrhic victory because they lost the game in humiliating fashion. So, yeah, it's not done. It won't go away, but we're not focused on that this week.
Yeah, it depends on the results. If they go out and win the next two, that's going to be 2 weeks of Matt Rule to Penn State. Is he going? Is he staying? All that. If they split, it'll be a murmur. If they go 0-2, it'll be totally muted.
Yeah, but then there'll be other conversations.
There'll be, is Matt Rule going?
Right. Isn't it crazy? It's not there's not a huge line between either of those.
Not at all. Welcome to college football 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on.
Number 1.
All right, last one. How do you guys look at the difficulty of the rest of the schedule as the Big Ten continues to have a metamorphosis? It's kind of crazy. It's like every game, the way we looked at it in August is completely different now. The way we looked at it in September, most of them are completely different now. We assume Northwestern would be the most winnable game of the 4 in October. I don't know. You could argue they might be the best of the 4 teams in that October stretch now. Would USC be the best opponent Nebraska's beaten in the Rule tenure? Like, how do we look at that game? What in the world is going to be going on with Penn State with not only everything going on with what we just talked about, but it feels like at some point Penn State's going to get out of the funk and lose the pressure. Like, how do you guys look at the rest of this thing? It truly looks like every outcome of every game is possible.
I still maintain, because I said this a couple weeks ago, that every game is winnable and every game is losable. And I still believe that today. Yes, for those of you who are really caught in the dumps, yes, USC is a winnable game.
Yes.
Penn State is a winnable. All these games are winnable, but they're also losable games. Right now on K-Ford, Northwestern, 77% chance of winning. UCLA, 78. The other three, USC and Penn State, 32%. And Iowa, 51% chance of a Nebraska win.
All right, so you got 2 that 3 out of 4 you should win, 2 that 1 out of 4 you should win, and 1's a 50-50
But last week,
proposition.
Minnesota closed at 72% chance of winning. So
interesting.
They're all winnable. They're all losable.
Yeah, life in the Big Ten. Find me a Big Ten game where you trot out on the field and go, they're dead.
I had Northwestern pegged at the beginning of the season. Oh, that's the worst team.
Yep, 100%.
Then it was UCLA.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst team. Then it was Purdue. Yep. Oh, that's
right.
There is a worse team. Arguably, you might say Michigan State.
Yeah,
right.
In the rearview mirror now might be the worst team in the Big Ten.
Right.
And you saw what happened there.
What a fool's errand is talking about these teams in August, right?
In September.
Nobody
in October.
But nobody even considered that going to Penn State was going to be a winnable game. Right?
No, it was in the teens. It was in the low teens
and
preseason.
If it was Nebraska, you would have thought had been having the season of their dreams.
Yep.
Right.
Yet here we are.
It still could get there.
And all these things could change again. Yeah.
Sure.
They really could.
Yeah.
What a season. Now, I will say real quick about Northwestern, though, and we'll get to this here. I looked at their schedule, their games, and they're 5-2. It's more impressive, honestly, than any other team Nebraska's played in terms of their beat UCLA, beat Penn State,
right?
Was closer to Oregon than anybody has come. That's not a top 10 team. They had that loss to Tulane at the beginning of the season, but that's in terms of like the super discouraging things. That's it.
Yeah,
on their whole resume.
And by the way,
solid.
Northwestern's looking at this as a winnable game. They close out at USC, Michigan, home for Minnesota, at Illinois, and they need one more win for a bowl. So you better believe that they're looking. They go into an idle week next week before that 4-game stretch.
Yep.
So they're going to empty the clip tomorrow.
All right, that's it for your morning drive, brought to you by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management. We'll take a break. Back with Kevin Suits and Opposition Disposition in a few minutes here on KLIN.
Zoo, not your billing statement. Every Husker game is free on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
So I have 27. John has 22.5. Kevin has 17. Nate has 12. So we'll go in that order. Me, John, Kevin, Nate. First one, LSU at Vanderbilt this week. I am going to do what John did earlier and take Diego Pavia. It didn't work for him, but I like it this time. Give me Vanderbilt. John?
In what world are we living in where Indiana has the third highest paid coach in America and Vanderbilt is a home favorite against LSU? Commodores.
Here we go. Kevin.
I'll take LSU.
All right.
Ooh.
Chasing some points.
I'm rolling with Vandy. And when does Brian Kelly's seat get hot at LSU?
There you go.
He's number 10, man.
There you go. Maybe that's who Penn State should go after. Maryland.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Maryland at UCLA. I think this is a fascinating game for Nebraska fans just to kind of see what happens. A former opponent and a future opponent. I got Maryland in this one, guys.
UCLA is on a heater right now, and that's a matchup that looks pretty doggone dangerous for Nebraska, especially if it's a late-night kickoff in the Rose Bowl. I'm riding with the Bruins.
Thanks for putting this on the list. It's a fascinating game. Yeah. I don't think Mike Locksley is losing to Jerry Neuheisel. I'm taking Maryland.
Yeah, I agree there. Terps.
All right, USC at Notre Dame. Always feels like this should be a November game, but here it is in mid-October. Irish are a pretty big favorite in this, so I'll go with the Irish.
This is one where I would definitely take Southern Cal if it was just against the points, but I think Notre Dame is playing well and they're good at home.
All right.
I'll take the Irish too.
All right.
Clean sweep.
Unanimous. All right. And then Utah at BYU. This one, there's going to be some fights or something in this.
Ooh, yeah.
It'll be great late night viewing. I'll take the Utes.
I'm going to go with the home team, BYU.
Utah.
BYU.
All right. Upsets. I'll take our Army getting 9.5 against Tulane. So I think the Army is going to get that one and at least get the points on that. John?
There's some inviting ones tonight, but I'm going to go with an omen. I saw Dana Altman last night at Bruce Rasmussen's Hall of Fame induction, the most famous Woo Pig Suey of all time. Arkansas plus 7.5 hosting Texas A&M.
Great game tonight. Louisville versus Miami. Jeff Brom can coach his tail off.
I like this one.
They're getting 13.5 against Miami, who's really good, but something tells me Brom might make this a really good game. I'm taking Louisville.
Ole Miss, 7.5-point dog against Georgia. Give me the Reds.
All right, there you go. All right, score the Nebraska-Minnesota game. I've been close for every game this year, picking a close game. Not tonight. Nebraska 31, Minnesota 10.
Wow.
John.
28-20, Nebraska.
I have a bad feeling about this game.
Hey, boy.
22-21, Nebraska squeaks it out.
38-17, good guys.
ball, takes a snap to the end zone. Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw. Blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red.
Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3. Know your foe? We'll introduce you, but we can't guarantee you'll get along. It's the Friday Husker Tailgate Opposition Disposition on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
It's the third hour of the Friday Husker Tailgate on 1499.3 KLIN.
Two things. My wife loves that. Second, I challenged Nate before the show. I said, you only had to announce 3 first downs last week by the Las Vegas Raiders. You should be able to give me at least 20 seconds this week.
I didn't quite get there, but you know what? Hey,
I'll let you save the rest of it for tomorrow because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of third downs of consequence.
And he's got Monday night, too. Monday night.
That's right.
Yep.
Against the Commanders.
Yep. Monday may not be a lot of first downs for them either.
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota being the quarterback. Welcome to the third hour of the Friday Husker Tailgate, and joining the team, Kevin Suits, 1011 Sports Director. Hello, Kevin. How are you doing today? Good to see you. We're going to get to some discussions here about this week, but we're going to do a little bit of opposition disposition first and taking a look at Northwestern. And John, you unearthed something that I either forgot or didn't even know had happened. Now, of course, I do remember pre-Big Ten, Nebraska's notable matchup against Northwestern, and I think only one, was in the Alamo Bowl in 2000. And Nebraska, of course, with Eric Crouch and Dan Alexander and a bunch of Kyle Vandenbosch, just absolutely housed Northwestern.
By the way, did I send you those?
I don't think I got any actual clips.
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I was so excited. I've got them. Give me a second.
You can send them. But just to look back, excuse me, at that game that was after that season that a little bit maybe disappointing for Nebraska.
Remember when an Alamo Bowl trip was disappointing?
Yeah, I mean, it was the 2000 season. There were some issues there. You had the loss at Oklahoma. I mean, I think that Nebraska team was ranked number 1 at that point.
They were number 1 when they went to Notre Dame, and maybe the Notre Dame game was kind of the first sign because that wasn't a very good Notre Dame team. And the Huskers went to overtime there. They won, but they went to OT. They lost that game at Oklahoma where they had, I think it was a 17-0 lead to begin that game. But that was the game that essentially put Bob Stoops era Oklahoma on the map. They lost on a field goal in the snow at K-State.
That was an odd game.
That game was brutal.
That was an odd game because that's one of the first times I ever remember Nebraska trailed that whole game. And then in the fourth quarter, they started to dominate. And I'm like, they got this one. And then it was it wasn't Bishop, it wasn't Roberson. Who was the quarterback for K-State?
Let's see.
I forget.
Anyway, they had a fourth quarter drive, and it's the first time I can remember Nebraska just dominating a fourth quarter, but then they lost it.
Kavanaugh? Did they have a Kavanaugh?
There was a Kavanaugh, but it wasn't him.
Later. Okay,
I can look it up.
We're efforting.
We are efforting.
In any case, I drove all the way. I drove 90 minutes to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, to watch that game at a place called Champs Sports Bar that they had.
I remember those bars.
And watched it in Sioux
Michael
Falls.
Beasley.
Yep.
Jonathan Beasley.
Jonathan Beasley.
Michael Beasley was a basketball player from Kansas City.
Yes, Jonathan Beasley.
His cousin. Yeah. So I don't know if that's true. In any case, yeah. So they came in, played Northwestern in that Alamo Bowl game. And yeah, that K-State game was definitely disappointing because you felt like you still had a shot.
Because that was for the title. That was for the North right there.
North, yep.
Still get to that still get to that championship game there, but nonetheless lost that. And so disappointing at that point, right, to play in the Alamo Bowl because but you hadn't been in a bowl like that. I mean, I guess you
the Holiday Bowl 2 years earlier, but I mean, it was a disappointing season. Meanwhile, you had Northwestern coming in. They were co-Big Ten champs, but they didn't get the Rose Bowl bid. And they were feeling their wild oats. But let's play a couple of these highlights because the tone was set very early. And I want you to especially listen as Warren and Adrian are calling the game. There seems to be a little extra juice for an Alamo Bowl in this one.
All right, let's take a listen.
2nd down and 6 to go as Hasselbrook goes in motion to the right side. Crouch the snap. He'll run the option right side. Eric to the 50. Pitches the ball to Alexander. 45, 40, 35. Wilson's way down to the 30-yard line. And he drove a Northwestern player right into the turf.
I mean, that's a first drive. And you could tell there was a little extra juice. By the way, Alexander ended up with a bowl record 240 yards rushing in this game. Eric Crouch, who this was second quarter when it was still a game at that point. Nebraska was on the cusp of putting up a 31-point second quarter, and this was one of the things that got it started.
The option right side by Eric Crouch. He's going to keep it. He's to the 50. Eric to the 45, to the 40, 35, 30, 25, 15, 10, 5. He's gone. Touchdown.
There you go.
I mean, you could just hear it's like, hey, guys, this is an Alamo Bowl. You're not playing for the Big 8 or Big 12 championship. The play I remember from this game was in the late third quarter. Nebraska's up. I guess it would have been like 52-17 at this point. And Frank Solich decided to call this.
31-yard line their own. 1st down and 10. Here's a swing pass out on the right flat to Bobby Newcomb. Wants to throw it. Davison is behind everybody. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. 10, 5. Touchdown.
They basically ran the receiver pass. Bobby Newcomb threw the touchdown to Davison. And we didn't realize it until after the game. So this is from one of the write-ups after the game. Forgive Carlos Polk for acting a little sassy after Nebraska's 66-17 domination of Northwestern. When a reporter asked the senior All-American middle linebacker if the Wildcats played like a high school team, Polk quipped, no, more like a middle school team. Quote, personally, I didn't like the way they played. They brought a bunch of cheap shots. That kind of added fuel to the fire. I mean, we're used to getting held, but they were throwing punches and grabbing face masks. Also quoted, his final game as a Husker, Dominic Raiola. Quote, these guys were disrespecting us all week. We wanted to shove it down their throats, and that's what we did. They tried to keep up with us, but they couldn't. I don't think they deserve to be Big Ten champions. I have no respect for them.
Oh, baby.
The discontent came from the other side media as well. I found this column from a gentleman by the name of Leo Ebersole, who was writing for the student newspaper, the Daily Northwestern. And their side of it was Nebraska was cheap shotting us. They were being dirty to us. They were being classless to us. Here was a line from that column. If the Cats wanted to take a cheap shot, they might have said something about Nebraska quarterback Eric Crouch's physical education major. In parentheses, I hear Blomquist is hiring Eric. Now, didn't Eric Crouch go on to sell playground equipment?
Yeah. It's a
so you might say the physical education major might have helped out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But this was a spicy game.
I did not remember it being that way.
It was a spicy. I vaguely remember there being a little extra juice, which is why they ran the trick play up 52-17. But
yeah, I
don't remember it being like this.
You think about that's 2000, right?
2000.
So Northwestern burst onto the scene in 95 when they had that amazing season with Darnell Autry.
Yep.
So that's a couple years after. So not to assume, but I'm going to assume that they started to feel a little bit comfortable in the spotlight by 2000. So then you feel like you can finally throw your weight around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Randy Walker coached that team, and it's surprising to hear some of that stuff because Northwestern is the scholarly institution, right?
Yep.
Apparently, they've got a little bit of an edge to them, or they at least tried to.
They tried to.
They tried to.
Failed miserably.
And as you were explaining all of that, I thoroughly enjoyed that, John, by the way.
Thank
that was
you.
fantastic. The quarterback was Zach Kustok, and that's a name that I remember from, Northwestern of many years ago. He was one of their more mobile quarterbacks, and that's when I think Northwestern, one, started to be consistently decent. I think that's the polite way to put it. And then also, transform a little bit and adapt as opposed to just being the doormat of the Big Ten.
Yeah. It's man, what a game. What a game. And I did not remember all that excitement. Man, I miss those days. I miss those days after Nebraska gets a win and they can say we were motivated by who they were and what we thought they said and what they were doing.
By the way, I love Husker Max because you get later on and you get the pull quotes from all the columns from Tom Chattel. Obviously, the Huskers' problem this year was that they didn't play in the Big Ten.
Let's go. Wow.
Skip Bayless, who was writing for the Chicago Tribune, talk about sobering if only football didn't include defense and kicking.
Wow.
Wow.
And then, of course, the pull quote I got from Ebersol from the Daily Northwestern.
That's amazing.
So if Dylan has even more of a chip on his shoulder, I wonder if his old man who was there, and I quoted him from this game, he probably remembers. And this is the first chance his son has had to play against Northwestern. Something tells me Dom has a long memory.
Yeah, he probably does.
And he'd probably like, hey, I don't like these guys.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't like these guys.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's possible that 25 years later, it's possible. I'm just saying it's possible. And if you're out there and you haven't said anything yet, go to HuskerMax.com, bring up the game, go back and read what you said in case you've forgotten.
Something got into this program, and I don't know when, and it precedes Matt Rule, that they were so reluctant to get motivated to beat a team because of who that team was or who they were even made out to be or perceived slights or anything, that it feels like Nebraska has lost the ability to do that. In fact, that's why, to be honest, that's why when they went in against Iowa and they didn't shake hands at the beginning of the game, I said, good, great. That look, it may not be sportsmanlike. They have got to get something back in the program where they get fired up. They consider a team someone they want to be. Like, I don't know if the program's been above it. I don't know who started that. I think the fans have done it too. I'm so sick of it.
Nameless, faceless opponent. So they don't even want to give credence to who's on the other side. They'll pay respect.
Do you think Minnesota treated Nebraska like a nameless, faceless opponent?
No. And
do you think Iowa treats Nebraska like a nameless, faceless opponent? No.
And I think the history of the program is such, like, you want to know where it started. I think it started in the 90s. I think when Nebraska said, you know what, we're going to hold ourselves to this highest standard.
It was that mentality, and you could do it then. It was saying to Colorado, you're not our rival.
Right.
It was that mentality, which you could do then.
This could all be a byproduct of being in the Big Ten and being one of the newer schools of the conference.
It's true, too.
It's hard to come in here and like just hate a team when you really don't know your place in the room. Yeah, there's hatred between Iowa and Minnesota, and there's hatred between Indiana and Illinois. But where does Nebraska? Yeah, Iowa naturally because of the border, and I feel like even some of that's fabricated.
And I guess maybe everybody's in and out of the program so quickly they don't even get a chance to sort of build that up culturally, right? And you don't play teams every year, but at very least Iowa, and they showed a little bit of that. I've got to imagine that at least is finally starting to get there. But I think we saw some of that last week, to be honest. It didn't feel like a big game. Minnesota didn't feel like a big team to beat. And they were to me. They are to me. You know why? Because I know people who are Minnesota fans, right? Why I know people who are Iowa fans. It's like they don't even act like they're close or familiar with these programs.
Because they're not.
I went back and looked at 2000 Big Ten football here, and a pretty underwhelming year for the conference. 6 Big Ten schools made a bowl game. they went 2-4 in those bowl games. So, and one of them was a 1-point win. So the conference was just down.
Yeah.
So Northwestern, whatever, 2000.
They were co-champs.
Yeah, but still, they weren't. The conference was very good.
Tressel's first year or John Cooper's last year at Ohio State? I want to say
I thought didn't Tressel win in year 2, so it would have been
it was the year that got John Cooper fired. I mean, Lloyd Carr and Michigan was kind of on its way down. Wisconsin was kind of at the height of its powers. Iowa had just flipped Kirk Ferentz.
It was Cooper's last year at Ohio State.
So the league was
in transition.
Yeah, well, you know how they always described it though. When Nebraska was a Big 12 team, and I was in college, and I knew a bunch of Big 10 fans. Well, we just beat each other up.
Yep.
Right. That's why nobody's good.
Oh, you mean they were using the argument of the SEC today?
We just beat each other up always.
Yeah.
Randy Walker was the Big Ten coach of the year, Northwestern's coach that year.
Wow.
And I think, not to diminish what Northwestern did that year, but that might just be by default.
Right.
You got to pick somebody.
But they probably had a little bit of a big head about themselves, and it got into their attitude, and Nebraska said, we don't like this, and we're going to fire back.
Something.
I for those of you, I did retweet the link to the Husker Max page from my Twitter account at John Bishop 71. Share it with your other friends, especially if you're one of those who don't get up for the 11 o'clock games very well, and you're going to go to the stadium and sit on your hands, maybe share it with someone on the team that you might know and say, hey, this is what it was like 25 years ago. These guys were very arrogant. And
even Minnesota, PJ takes subtle jabs at Nebraska after every game.
He does.
Like he did. Yeah. Like you can find things.
He made a jab about the uniform.
You can find things.
It's not just PJ.
I know.
Start paying attention, people.
There
are other schools, there are other coaches and other players that like to swipe at Nebraska. I don't know why.
Quit taking it. It's okay to get mad. It's okay to not like another team in college football. It's okay to say, I want to beat Iowa because I can't stand that black and gold and they've been beating us. It doesn't take away your dominance in the 90s. You're at a different level now. Right? You got to do what Colorado did.
And
sorry.
There's been material there over the past several years, too. It's like Nebraska's just not going to lean into it. Like the Scott Frost winnable game against Purdue. Purdue liked it.
Oh,
and
they loved it.
They
used it in your video.
Every other team finds that and takes it and uses it.
Yeah.
And then Iowa with the clapping on the sideline.
Yes.
There have been moments that have allowed Nebraska to really start just despising other teams in the Big Ten.
Can't do it. Too nice. Nebraska nice.
Yeah.
It seriously feels like it. So, and then I thought Rule at that Akron game, I thought he was trying to turn the page on that with that Akron halftime speech, right?
Yeah.
He was of demonizing anyone at that point. It was Akron for not downing the ball before halftime, which I thought was ridiculous, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Because they need to be doing that against Minnesota. Where is it?
Which is again why the program that did that then had to convince some of its coaches that Minnesota was good. That those are two diametrically opposed
opposite ends of the spectrum. I don't get it.
But a lot happened the week of Minnesota. The environment changed.
I guess so.
They had to stay in a different hotel.
Man.
And there was my coaching search.
Yeah, well, and good luck doing that for Penn State.
Yeah.
And as we talked about last hour, the coaching search thing hasn't gone away.
What's Matt Rule going to say about Penn State? This is a program I hate.
Listen, Matt Rule, if you want to take a day off, I know we're looking way ahead now, but you want to take a day off for Penn State, I have some issues with Penn State that still affect me to this very day.
Yeah.
I've called referees names on the air because of Penn State 1982. You need help with Penn State? I'll take care of Penn State.
I'll go on a half-hour pregame rant about how over Kijana Carter was. I mean, whatever you need, we'll do. They should do. Let all the old guys who are still bitter about opponents take over the pregame
I won't even bring up that guy who's in prison. I won't even do it.
That's magnanimous of you because I sure wouldn't leave it out.
I don't need to.
I don't know. Can they dislike anyone left on their schedule? Can you dislike USC? I don't know.
Sure you can. Remember how jacked that crowd
ending the season?
Remember how jacked that crowd was in 2007?
I don't
And
know.
then the game got away.
They can't dislike PJ Fleck. He's kind of a supervillain. So, like, who can you dislike at that point?
Now he's a supervillain. He's dressed like it. He's got the suit and the tie. He looks like a Bond villain.
I know. The game gets over and he sprints
All
like
he
a
needs to do is
weirdo
stick
to his
finger up
house.
to his, his pinky up to his nose and have pet a cat. He's like, I'm going to be.
Are we just going to gloss over the fact that you just referenced the Bill Callahan era?
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
God. I did.
Remember the build-up for that game, the 07 USC game?
The buildup was the whole offseason.
Well,
I'm serious.
And I remember that Friday. I'll tell. This is true story. The Friday night before Nebraska played USC in 2007, Friday night high school football across. We did not lead with high school football in our sportscast that night.
No,
because there was so much anticipation for the Nebraska USC game. We led with USC's in town in like 2 minutes worth of Nebraska football day before game coverage.
Yeah. Probably
So
college
Lincoln
game
Southeast,
day. It was
Lincoln
huge.
East, sorry, you're second fiddle.
Well,
on Friday night,
we did the pregame from was it 10th Street?
Yeah, it was
the old bar,
11th Street pub.
That was the day we met Blake Lawrence's mom and sister,
Yes.
and I swear to God, I thought his sister or his mom was his sister. And she was very happy with me when I said that.
She was very nice. Yeah,
she was very nice.
Despisable opponents ahead, though. Northwestern, we've already discussed. USC,
You can get there.
You could, but they won't.
What's there to hate about UCLA?
Right. They could. I mean,
Nico.
Really? Like people don't know who Nico
UCLA
is.
is tough to
that
hate.
Pelini game when they came back and
I got it. Neuheisel's kid.
Yeah,
He looks just like his dad. Remember what Neuheisel did?
Son of Skippy.
You know what? I'll admit UCLA is kind of hard to hate. They have cool uniforms.
Yeah, they're kind of hard to hate, but they're going to be a
They play
bear
in
of a
Pasadena.
matchup.
I mean,
I'm worried about that. Even I can't hate them.
Yeah, and then Penn State and Iowa, of course, Iowa. Yeah, but I mean, there's nobody left on the schedule outside of Iowa that you're like, man, I hope we just stick it to them.
I feel like I couldn't go scream at Jerry Neuheisel. I'd be like, hey, do you want to go sit down and play some guitar for me around the fire? Like, hey, man.
He's probably, I mean, if they were playing this game in Lincoln, he'd be doing a bit at the mill.
I feel like he's
the night
like,
before.
hey, let me turn down this James
Shine on my shoulder.
Let me just turn this James Taylor here. I couldn't hear what you were saying, man. Come on, have a seat. How you feeling? That one's a problem. Iowa, no issues.
No, we'll get
all right. That's it for opposition disposition. That went a very different direction today, but I enjoyed it nonetheless because I've had that feeling in my heart for a long time. All right, it's 8:31. We'll hit the round table. I'm going to hear more of Kevin's thoughts about what happened last weekend and what it means for the rest of the season. Talk about that and more coming up. Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
Always free with no subscription required. Over the air, online, and through the app. Lincoln's Husker Radio is 1499.3 KLIN. Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIS.
Raved so much about Nebraska needing to
Jack
be
Mitchell
motivated
promoting
by
hate.
other teams that I want to give Kevin a little bit of time because we've all kind of gone our thoughts over and over about last week's game, what's been said this week, the game that's coming up. And Kevin, I'll just kind of leave it open to you. Sort of where are you at today when you're thinking ahead about this game in context of what's been said and what happened in the last several
I have
days?
fan fatigue.
Fan fatigue.
I have fan fatigue. You guys knew that was kind of how I was feeling last week, just based on all the discussion leading up to the Minnesota game, and actually not about the actual game, but about the coaching situation. And then that clunker happened, and now fans just don't like the team, and they question all the coaches, not just the head coach. And man, I like to rewind. Can we go back 2 weeks in time?
Yeah.
Things were really good,
man,
and it was fun. Playoff talk and liking the offensive line, ish.
Coming out and celebrating with the fans.
Yeah, there's so much good in the defense. Pass defense ranked number 1 in the nation, and look at the promise that Williams Winery has, and Dylan Raiola's on that outside cusp of the Heisman contention. Like so much, it's gone, all gone. It's gone. We're near the back end of October. And in the span of 2 weeks, all that was good and fun and exciting. There was potential for this game there to be a pep in your step and the crisp of the air, and it's fall and it's home football and it's Northwestern. And how do you feel about going to the game tomorrow? You're going because you have tickets.
Yeah.
Or you're going to turn them on because that's what you do on Saturday when Nebraska plays. Not because you want to, and because you're fired up about the team and the game. And it's just everything feels so it went askew. And just hearing everything last week about Matt Rule in the Penn State position and just a curiosity about that situation. And then you throw in, I think that's one of the worst performances by Nebraska in the past 5 years.
Yeah,
I'd go farther back.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought since Georgia Southern. That was the closest I could come to it.
But at least in that one, offensively, they were moving the ball.
And they still had a chance to win that game.
Yeah, but opponent adjusted.
This was just
opponent. I would say at least Illinois COVID. Or which one was first, Illinois or Minnesota that year? Because Minnesota came in here with 50s.
Illinois was the opener, wasn't it?
No, Ohio State was.
Oh,
the Illinois one, they got reverse covered. That was awful. Yeah. Minnesota, when they came in here with only 50 guys and just chucked it down.
But I don't even count the COVID ones, really.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're going to go pre-COVID.
Yeah, I agree.
Just a bad.
Bad.
And you know what?
Awful.
It was bad.
So my overwhelming sentiment about Nebraska football leading into this game against Northwestern is I have fan fatigue. Just kind of tired of hearing everything. And I like to focus on football. And there's been little focus about the football. And I know we're going to talk about this matchup here in a few minutes because it actually could be a pretty decent game. Mm-hmm. And the other thought I have is you guys like to pick bowl games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes when you're trying to predict who's going to win bowl games, and a lot of times teams that you don't really know a whole lot about,
motivation,
but it's fun to do.
Yeah.
It's all about who wants to be there and who wants. The game to me felt like a bowl game. And somebody got assigned to a destination they didn't want and an opponent they didn't want. And and they just kind of went through the motions. That was Nebraska last Friday.
Yeah. Sure it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just were kind of there. And it didn't look good. It didn't feel good. The sideline was stale. There was no fire in the eye, even with it being a 1-point game, 1-point deficit at halftime. But it felt like they were down by 10. If not more.
Yeah.
It didn't operate very well. Something was wrong. Some things were wrong. This week, I still don't know that I was able to identify much or learn much. Some people really liked the messaging from the players this week and the assistant coaches and the head coach. I'm going to go there. And I talked about this during a commercial break with Ken Shimmick last night.
And the words of wisdom.
Matt Rule on Monday, I left Memorial Stadium saying, man, that was pretty good. He was pretty transparent. He had an edge, and he was brutally honest. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. The more I've thought about the message, it was a little bit Scott Frost-esque. there was some finger pointing. He took accountability because Matt Rule has a ton of awareness. It falls on me. I am the head coach. I have to get the team ready to play. But he tried telling the coaches, and he did that. That's a very Scott Frost thing to do, right? I was telling him, I made him away.
Interesting. I had not thought of it that way.
That felt a little bit like the previous head coach of Nebraska football. There was a little bit of finger pointing, but again, Matt Rule knows, like, he's the head coach, starts and ends with him. So he's going to take bring on the bullets, bring on the fire. He deserves it because that's what comes with the territory of being the head coach. And then also operationally, he wants to, protect his players and take the blame, but he is also, referencing that there are 2 offensive linemen out, and he's referencing his quarterback is holding onto the ball a little bit long, and he's referencing defensively, we didn't play with enough of an edge, and he criticizes some of the defensive play calling. So Monday, I was like, man, that was really good stuff. Today, I still feel a little bit uneasy about it. Are you guys getting what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
I understand.
I've never heard
it
said that way, but yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but also, like, if he didn't say that, and he didn't say that just wasn't good enough, what can he say specifically that isn't that, basically? Because that feels like the under the hood stuff of, well, the offensive game plan wasn't there, the defensive game plan got conservative, that sort of thing. I guess because I do find that to be a very interesting viewpoint of, hey, in essence, he was trying to deflect blame, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think anybody realized that in the moment.
No,
because he was so honest and he was very vulnerable, and I applaud Matt Rule for doing that.
Sure.
Like, he took the blame.
Yeah, but I guess I'm wondering, like, if he's not saying that, how does he take blame but also not put it on his coach?
Well, I mean, as much as I appreciated the, some people didn't take it seriously enough, those are probably things best left unsaid.
Hey, that's how I would answer you, Nate.
Because and someone had tweeted at Michael Severe, I like my coach, but sometimes he's too honest.
Yep.
And let's face it, that part, the accountability part, I had to convince the assistant coaches, has been the biggest thing sticking in my craw. I didn't look at it exactly the way Kevin just described, but again, if you have to convince your lieutenants, you have a problem, because it's exactly the opposite of the nameless, faceless opponent, right?
That he has lectured
about all year long, and so that part of it still sticks with me a little bit. Now, can you make up for it by having a really good week this week and everyone snaps to attention? And absolutely you can. And Matt Rule has already put out we're going to play well. I guarantee it. We might not win. He did throw that in there, but he said, we're going to play well. We're going to be here.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't look right, there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of people saying, but you told us you were going to play well.
No.
And Northwestern can drag you down into the mud to the point where you might think you're playing well, but it don't look well.
Right.
Matt Rule's honesty cracked the door open for fans to kind of like lean around the corner and peek in and see that there's a little bit of like dysfunction and the message isn't being received. And, again, 2 weeks ago, door is slammed shut and everybody thinks that it's a big party inside, right? Everybody's having a good time.
Yeah.
But now the door is open and you see that there's a couple of people standing off in the corner and you see a couple of people disagreeing about something. And it feels like the fans don't need to know that.
No.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And another thing about Matt Rule is he will use the podium and some of the other videos that the university produces to motivate his players and now his coaches as well.
Sure.
And so I'm sure that he's keeping that in mind. Calling out his assistant coaches publicly, that's a bold move.
Sure.
In the moment, I think when you heard it, you were like, whoa.
Yeah, I was.
Because they need to be a united front, right?
Yeah.
Well, you've got the commander-in-chief now.
And what happens if there's more discord? If there's another loss here?
I don't know.
We got to go to break, but 2 things I wondered. Like, part of me wondered if there's somebody that he particularly thinks didn't do a good job, and to cover over that, he did blanket critiques on everyone for everything.
It's possible.
He went down the list, right? This guy, this guy, this guy. The other thing that's always interesting about this, there's always this thing, and coaches do it all the time. It all falls on me. It all falls on me. But what usually happens is they list specific things other people did wrong, and in the end said, but it's my larger responsibility.
Correct.
It's like, said, my kid got in trouble at school, Johnny shouldn't have stole the pencil. I guess in the end that falls on me as his dad. But, I can tell you specifically what he did wrong, but not what I did wrong.
Mad respect for John Butler, too, for after being openly criticized publicly in the week. Then he gets up and he took it. Yeah. He took it like a man, and he was real about everything. And I have a lot of respect for the way John Butler handled this.
We'll see. We'll get a good idea of what it's like going behind closed doors there this week. All right, we'll take a break. We got the picks coming up next on KLIN.
Thinking Huskers.
God, it's unbelievable!
Think 1499.3 KLIN. Bragging rights means everything to these guys. Let the trash talk begin. It's time to call your shot in the Friday Husker Tailgate Pigskin Picks of the Week. Presented by Exchange Bank on Lincoln. 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, I had a rough week last week. Not great, but as is often the case in this country's history, our Army comes to the rescue when things aren't looking good, and they did it for me too, getting me a point. And so I got 3 last week, but John and Kevin both made up ground. John got 5, got Arkansas for a point, hit all 4 head-to-head games. Very impressive with the sweep. And then Kevin with the upset call maybe of the year with Louisville winning outright on Friday night. Hopefully taking some attention away from that Nebraska game.
It did get more viewers than the Nebraska game, so that's a good thing.
Kevin was also closest on Nebraska. He was a little pessimistic. wouldn't quite pull the trigger on the loss, but you are the closest.
I kept it as narrow of a margin as I could.
And Nate pulled down 3.
Yeah,
so I got 30. John has 27.5. Kevin's got 22. Nate has got 15. That's the order we will go in. Let's get into the games this week. I don't know if anyone actually calls it this, but the Sunflower Showdown or whatever it is. Hey, it's Kansas State at Kansas. Who do we have in this one? And I'm going to go with Kansas State I feel like they're getting better as the season goes on. I will take Kansas State in this one.
Is it KU hasn't won in like almost 20 years?
That long?
Yeah, boy,
we had Todd Furman on
years.
yesterday, and I think it's been at least a dozen
I like
years.
my pick even better. All right.
Even like the Mangino years?
I don't know.
Well,
I'll have to double check, but I'm taking Kansas. They're favored.
Okay.
Rock chalk.
All right.
It's almost basketball season. They're going to be awake.
Even better. Nobody.
Well, they got to do one more for attention, and then it's basketball.
All right.
Yep.
Kevin?
K-State's played in a lot of close games. They're just right on the cusp of turning the corner. I'm going to take K-State.
All right.
Rock chalk.
All right. 50/50. Missouri at Vanderbilt in the SEC. I am going to go. I said last week I love Missouri, everything about them, but I'm going with Vanderbilt here on this one.
Diego Pavia. I love me some Diego Pavia. Vandy.
Go Doors.
All right. Sweet.
I'm going out on the limb with Missouri.
Yeah, there you go. Nate's going to try and make some comebacks here. Could happen. Certainly could happen. All right. I think this one's fascinating. BYU at Iowa State. Like, all of a sudden, if BYU wins this, they're really rolling.
And Iowa State's favored.
I don't buy it. I'll take BYU.
I'll go with Matt Campbell and Iowa State.
All right.
I'm going to go Iowa State, too.
All right.
BYU.
All right. 50/50. I love it. Texas A&M and LSU. This used to be like a Thanksgiving game that would go into 8 overtimes.
Yes.
Kind of disappointed it's not right now. On this one, I keep saying it. Texas A&M is going to have a clunker somewhere. Give me LSU.
I agree, but because Mike Elko is a whiny baby, when he got asked about the Penn State job, he turned it around and blamed the media. And he sounded like a crybaby. LSU's last stand, because the guy on the other sideline is going to be the next head coach at Penn State, Brian Kelly and LSU.
All right.
Marcel Reed's a quarterback that nobody's really talking about, and he's
Pretty
in
good.
that Heisman contention.
You might get the point from us.
He's Texas A&M's quarterback. It's pretty good.
Kick
I'm going to go
them.
A&M.
Gig 'em.
All right. 2-2 on that too. All right. Upset of the week. I don't know. This seems like low-hanging fruit, but it's too obvious for me. I guess maybe we're just going to say Minnesota's good now. I will take 7.5 going to Iowa in that one.
That was my other game. Give me Mississippi State +7 at home against Texas.
Ooh.
I hate doing this, but I'm going to take Colorado +13.5 at Utah.
South Carolina +11.5 at home against Bama.
All right. Nebraska, Northwestern. It's partly because I kind of think it, partly because I'm going to be superstitious with reverse psychology. Northwestern 20, Nebraska 19.
Whoa.
Nebraska 14, Northwestern 12.
Close games. I'm going to stick with the close game theme. I'm going to go Nebraska 22, Northwestern 21.
24-17 Huskers.
All right. I can't believe I did it. First time this year I've done it.
Negative Jack.
There it is. We'll see.
Hater.
If Nebraska has a great game, I'll have to do it every week.
These fans, my goodness.
That's it. Hey, we got Husker Volleyball. No drive time, Lincoln. We'll see you next week on KLIN.
You're